And then in brackets it says, "Funk up my life." I've been there, done that. For those of you who remember over the winter period, the bad weather that we had, and the flooding, and it was just absolutely nuts. I have Tony Parks on the other end of this line. Morning, Tony. How are you?
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Well, I think I'm getting there. At least we were dry, which is the main thing. They're saying that 6.2 million households in the UK have got no house contents.
Yeah.
All to do, and then of course there's flooding and everything else that people really, really should try and get right. Explain why.
Yeah, so what we've seen lately is that there's been a lot more adverse weather around the UK, and that's predominantly to do with climate change and other factors. But the reality is, the figures you said are right, is that there's about 6.2 million households with no insurance, and about 30% are underinsured. So insurance companies always talk about the financial cost, and we always hear about bad claims experience. But the real cost is that, I've been speaking to someone called David yesterday, and the cost was really the hassle and the impact on his lifestyle. His house was flooded, he didn't have the right level of insurance, and it went on for about 12 to 18 months before he could move back into the house. Now, that obviously caused a strain on his marriage, and even just his kids going to school, they had to take 2 or 3 buses instead of the usual 10-minute walk.
Do you know, I've said this time and time again. I'm from a small town in the Scottish borders called Hawick, and the River Teviot goes through there before it joins up with the River Tweed at Kelso. And a few years back, there was an awful lot of flooding, and the residents there turned around and said, "Look, we need to get the river dredged." So the council went, well, we don't know what to do with the stone, and a local farmer popped up and said, "Oh, look, I'll take the stone." Job done. No landfill, no problem. They dredged the river from point A down to point B. And surprisingly enough, yes, we've had the really, really, really bad weather this year. And there has been no flooding. So I'm sitting thinking about, once you start dredging the rivers and removing I'll use the word crap out of there and all, the various other bits and pieces, the rivers can do what they're supposed to do, which is move vast quantities of water away. And I mean, I don't understand. And I sit and I look at these people down in Somerset who have been just their lives devastated by what's going on. It's shocking.
Yeah, it's totally shocking. And I think you've got to look all around the country. You can go to places like Dawlish, which is one of the most beautiful rail journeys in the country. And that was completely devastated by the sea. So it's not just flooding. We're seeing more and more adverse weather in the UK, and therefore people need to make sure that they've got the right insurance policy. So if something bad does happen, they're covered and they're operating with the right companies to get them back to a position they want to be in.
Just to go back to Dawlish, a couple of things I will say. I mean, when you think about it, it took 150 years for the sea to breach that Brunel's sea defences. But they are talking about rerouting the railway around the back of the town, which I am all in favour. Open all the old railways that used to be open. That's my answer to everything. Yeah. Including the railway down to Hawick. Oh, yes. I'm into that. I don't care. But to go on to the more serious thing about, as you said yourself, it's not just the physical as well, is it? I mean, there's the mental thing as well. Like the photographs that get ruined, and there's no way you can...
Yeah, there's lots of things. I think what we all do in insurance is we buy the insurance, we put the big pack in the drawer, and we don't really look at the terms and conditions. And so we might have bought something totally irrelevant to ourselves, where there is companies out there who provide really good experience. I was speaking this morning to Susan, who basically, unfortunately, her home was flooded, and the most important thing to her was making sure her cats got into a cattery while she was out of her home. So, but luckily she had bought the right insurance to where she lived. She'd researched it. She'd gone online, and she made sure she had the right product for herself, because we all go on holiday and we all go and research our holiday in depth, but we sort of don't on insurance.
The thing there, though, I mean, surely there's a case to be made for not building on floodplains.
Potentially there is, that we see a lot of different definitions around where floodplains are and what level of insurance you should have, and whether these property builders should do it. But that's a debate for the governments around the country.
Yeah, I mean, there is a place I know not far from Peebles, where I used to live, and there's a small conurbation of fairly luxury houses, and it's all on a floodplain. I mean, I've seen that particular field that they built these houses on under about 4 or 5 feet of water.
And I certainly, harbour on about insurance, but people, when they look at houses, should really research the property they're buying and what area it's bought on and what the grading is, because that will have an impact on what insurances and cover they can get in the future.
I mean, there's several. I mean, surely enough, you're going to spend, 300, 400, maybe £500,000 on a house.
Yeah.
And then skimp on the insurance. It's a bit nuts.
It is totally nuts, but also what we see a lot of is that people shop on insurance on price, and that there can be wide variances of price, and even when you buy the cheapest, it may not be the best, or even if you buy the most expensive, it might not provide what you want. I would say to everyone who's listening today is that just engage with the insurance company. You know, there'll be some listeners today thinking, have I got the right cover? Well, what I'd do is I'd certainly walk around your home, make a list of everything which is important and sort of values, and just pick up the phone and chat with the insurance company now and make sure that you are covered for what you think you're covered for.
Including things like one-off items, like maybe that special ring that you were given by somebody special, or that thing that's up there in the cabinet.
The rings are a great example, you know, where people unfortunately get broken into, and they go to claim on their ring, and then they realise that their ring was worth £2,000, and unfortunately, you know, they're only covered for £1,000 on any single item, and it's this sort of jargon which we want to move away from, you know. So they should really research what they're covered for, so that when they do claim, they do get the right level of cover. Now, that there is one company on jewellery, I think, in the UK, which is actually letting customers send photos in advance on their jewellery, so that if they do lose their jewellery or it's stolen, that they can actually try and replace it, because it's not really the cash on an item of jewellery, it's normally the sentimental value. Yeah, I can well imagine. Yeah. Best place to go, where do you suggest our listeners go for more help and advice? Yeah, what I'd say is obviously they can look at ourselves, which is www.sbs-claims.co.uk, but I'd also say look at the Money Advice Service. You know, it's a government-backed website, and that will give really good advice on insurance and other products associated with the home. Well, Tony, thank you very, very much indeed for taking the time this morning. Keep your feet dry. I will do, Jeff. Same to yourself. It's been great talking to you. Have a good day. I shall try very hard. Speak to you later. Cheers, bye. Cheers, ta-ra.